Let's speak to James Price, former government advisor, on this and other issues of the day. Afternoon to you, James. It does seem to be the big thing, right? There it is, low traffic neighbourhood, what's not to like? It sort of comes under that category. I sense councils think, well, we can easily do this, because who doesn't support a clearer road?
Well, this is always the unintended consequences, right? We have the law of unintended consequences. We want to do this thing, we will go and do this thing. And then when the unintended consequence comes along, lo and behold, the experts say, well, this is the one thing we didn't want to happen, that classic line. And unfortunately, I don't know why people are surprised about this anymore. As I talk about in some the other stories that are coming up about councils running out of money or councils incompetence and things like this. The more that local council, local government, frankly, national government tries to do, the less bandwidth it has, the less budget it has to do anything at all, which is why the places at the Adam Smith Institute, where I'm at now, and when I was in government, you try and focus on doing fewer things and doing them better. We clearly haven't got the ability to tell people really where to go without, as you say, fining them. I see people just trying to go to the shops, trying to pick their kids up from school. You know, you're distracted, you take a wrong turn, as you say, boom, 100 quid fine. How many of us can really afford to do that so many times?
It's that, isn't it?
Gets to a point of cruelty.
And it's the idea, because everything should be about, you know, what is our relationship as citizens with the state? And I want it to be as tenuous as possible, and I want to pay my taxes for all the correct things and the stuff we really need. The idea that a state-decreed policy precludes you from driving potentially down your own street, that's not the deal I think we cut with our government. Our political masters are not there for that reason, right?
No, absolutely. And I think there's something particular about cars. Only something like 9% of people commute into work on the train, and most of those are in and around the southeast and London and some of the big cities. Most people still rely on their cars. Okay, we're not like America, where you can stick Bruce Springsteen on, you drive 1,000 miles for a better life. If you do that, you end up in the North Sea here. But there's still that element of freedom of having your car, right? You get in there, you lock the door, you can sing and no one's going to judge you as loud as you want to sing. You're free, you're safe, all these sorts of points. And you listed, I think, probably an incomplete list of all the taxes. You forget about the extra petrol duties, maybe insurance premium tax that goes on. All these things that are now pricing people out of being able to have cars, which is such a fundamentally amazing thing about modern life, especially as they get greener and cleaner and more efficient now.
Well, that's just to compound the confusion, that's absolutely spot on. Of course, the car, and you think back to, you know, Henry Ford and the comments about, I want my workers to be able to afford to buy what they build, etc. When it comes to social mobility, I think if we were having a kind of trade-off as to what is mostly responsible for that, the car would certainly be up on the podium taking one of the prizes in terms of allowing people that freedom to do all manner of things, expand their lives, see family, see places, etc. The car is that autonomous piece of kit that is so crucial to the human journey.
Absolutely. But don't worry, at least here in London, Sadiq Khan has a brilliant idea for this. It's going to make it too unaffordable for most people who have older, poorer cars to be able to drive around with you, Les. There you go. Then you won't even have to worry about low traffic neighbourhoods. There'll be no traffic neighbourhoods where people will just have to be forced to walk into the shops like we were hundreds of years ago.
You can see it coming around the corner. I mean, I don't even mean that facetiously. Maybe Birmingham will have to start to have some of these low traffic neighbourhoods or find ways of fining people, because they've got to find ways of raising money, because they're not just skint and a bit short on the folding stuff. They're bankrupt.
It's really quite impressive. You know, there's some of the few places at the moment, until perhaps an election coming up next year comes along, that Labour run in this country. Croydon first, that went bankrupt. I think Nottingham did. Birmingham's gone bankrupt now. You look at the state of everything going on in Wales, where they're forcing people to actually, for those who will be able to afford their cars, only drive them at 20 miles an hour. You said Birmingham Council, by the way, they did manage to find enough money to rename some of the streets in some of those neighbourhoods that may have to become low traffic neighbourhoods. They renamed them Equality Road and Diversity Grove and all these sorts of things. So they had the money for the really important things, just not for any of the essential services the taxpayers paid for. Yeah, and you can understand why. I mean, it cost them 220 million quid, their contribution to the Commonwealth Games. And I know that, you know, you have to sometimes have some fun, but bearing in mind they knew this was coming around the corner, this horrendous invoice for what had gone on in terms of pay from years gone by, that you kind of have to scratch your head a little bit and wonder who the hell is running that thing. Well, we know who's running it. It's a Labour council, so maybe there's something in that. Yeah, this is the real chicken and egg difficulty, to be serious, that we have in the UK, that we are an incredibly centralised country. So much power is held in Whitehall and very little of it is eked out. I think the silliest story I've seen recently is that there's somebody you now have to go and apply to if you're a local council to win a chess set. That central government is going to give the money for a chess set if you want to apply for different councils. It's got to that level of micromanagement. But I suppose the reason they do that is because when councils do have power, these things go wrong. And maybe it's an issue of quality. Maybe it's if we just start forcing some responsibility on more levels of local government, like is happening with some of the metro mayors, then people will step up and local people will take more attention and care of who they vote for in local elections if we force the power down onto them. But in the meantime, the risk of that is, of course, that people find their councils going bust.
Indeed. And this is the largest council in Europe, which I didn't really realise until I was reading up on this today. Listen, James, thank you as ever. He's James Price, former government advisor to the former Chancellor, Nadeem Zahawi, and others as well.